Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88, 85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in the scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Once coaches get involved, of course, they've got their own opinions about what fits best for what they want to do, and that could be drastically different than what the scouts say.
Well, you're looking at traits, and remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
One thing good about Kevin, he's been with 2 other organizations, as well as being the commissioner of the Big Ten. He's been around.
The Bears.
With Greg Olson, Jerry didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't want to get rid of him. Nobody wanted to get rid of him. One guy wanted to get rid of him, Mike Martz, because Mike Martz didn't know what the hell to do with him. We tried to talk Lovey out of hiring Mike Martz for a month and a half. He's playing zone, but number one, he doesn't get enough depth with the drop. But who the hell's giving? How many times does a 305, 310-pound defensive tackle drop into coverage, especially in a key situation?
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate. There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be.
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh edition of Gabriel Talks Football, GTF. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I want to wish everyone a happy Cinco de Mayo, especially those who know what it represents and celebrate it for the right reasons. And I also want to let you know that Bear Their Souls is moving to Wednesday this week, and we should have a very special show 1 week out from the schedule announcement. So we'll be talking about what we're hoping to see in the schedule and lots of other cool stuff. On today's show here with Greg Gabriel, we're going to start by wishing him a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Greg!
Well, it was yesterday, but I'll take it a day late.
There you go. You want to share how old you are?
No. No, I'm 74. I'm an old fart.
And proud of it. You look great for 74. Absolutely. Did you do
had to spend a good part of the weekend in enemy territory now. That was
up in Detroit area?
Detroit, yep.
Did you see a lot of lines, paraphernalia, signs, and crap like that?
Not one.
Oh, good. Good.
That's
make it more pleasant.
When this relocation specialist is showing my wife around, my wife. I told my wife, I said, "Will you just tell your new boss that I refuse to become a Lions fan?" And so she's telling this relocation specialist that, and she goes, "They're a little nuts around here." She goes, "Yeah, well, my husband worked for the Bears for 10 years. There's no way he's turning over."
Indeed. There is absolutely no way. 10 years with the Bears. How many years total with the Giants?
17.
And then the Bills, you were also with the Bills organization?
Bills for like almost 4 years. I was with the Eagles for a year.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. That's a lot of football experience. Well, let's put that experience to use because we got a lot to talk about regarding our Chicago Bears. One of the topics that we promised people we're going to talk a bit about today were the undrafted free agents that the Chicago Bears have signed. I put together a list of those guys. They are the safety out of LSU, Major Burns, Power Echoes, the linebacker out of North Carolina, J.P. Richardson, wide receiver out of TCU, Luke Elkin, long snapper out of Iowa, Jonathan King, a kicker out of Michigan State, Xavier Carlton, edge out of Cal, Jade Walker, wide receiver out of Texas A&M, Tasheen Johnson, safety out of Oregon, Jerome Robinson, defensive end out of Kansas, and Diontae Henkins, running back out of Texas State. Greg, which one of these players would you like to start with? Who caught your attention the most, perhaps?
Well, there's about 4 or 5 that I think got an opportunity.
Mhm.
Let's start with we'll start because everybody thinks they got to sign running backs, and we'll get into that. So let's start with Diontae Henkins.
Okay.
The day he steps on the field, be the biggest running back they got, size, but not height wise. He's about 5'11", 225 to 230. I don't know why he started off at UTEP, Texas El Paso.
Mhm.
Had really good career there. Never 1,000 yards, but like 750, 850, 900 yards, like 3 years in a row.
Mhm.
Then he transfers to Texas State. Sometimes, you transfer because of the NIL money or whatever, but it's not always a good fit. Well, if you look at the numbers, it wasn't a good fit. He only had 270 something yards. So I threw out that tape. I looked at the UTEP tape. He's not a bad runner. Good instinct. He's a power guy. Not a lot of wiggle to him, but he's got some speed. He's like a 4.55 guy for a big back. That's pretty good. And he can move the pile. So he's something that they don't have, especially if Roshan continues with the concussion problem, which we're hoping and everybody else is hoping is behind him, but you got to be careful just in case. So that guy's an interesting guy. The guy that just jumped off the film at me, and you look at the numbers and you go, no, can't do it. He's too small for safety. He's like 5'9", so 5'9" and 7/8, but he's almost 200 pounds and he runs good. Is this Tysheem Johnson from Oregon? He'll knock your dick off. Right? Just to put it mildly. He is a hitter galore. He comes up. He can play in the box. He can play deep. He runs really well. He can cover. There's one reason why he didn't get drafted. He's 5'9.5". To me, that's the only reason. Because he's a hell of a football player. Ja'Day Walker, big receiver, 6'0", 2'7", almost 200, 4.47. I don't think Texas A&M had a good passing game. He only caught maybe 30 passes last year or something, but he's a good route runner. It was more of he's got speed. You can see that. He tested really well, but he was more of a possession guy for them and catches everything. Large receiving radius, got a little run after. So, I mean, it's a tough room for him to break into, but it would give them another guy with size because their only big receiver is Rome right now, as far as, being a real tall guy. Xavier Charlton doesn't do a whole lot for me. He's just not fast enough for an edge. He's a 5.05 guy. Jonathan Kim, my experience tells me rookie kickers really, for the most part, struggle coming into the league. It's a different ball. The NFL ball is a lot harder, shaped not very differently, a little bit differently, but in college they're kicking balloon balls. They've been scuffed up. You got to kick brand new hard balls in the NFL. This guy's got a strong leg, really good year last year. He's got like 6 or 7 career kicks over 50 yards. The longest is 58 yards, I believe. Good kickoff guy, but the kickoff really doesn't matter anymore the way the rules are on the kickoff. But what experience shows me with kickers is you got to get cut a couple times before you really catch on. And it's part of it. It's more a head game with kickers. And until they get used to the pressure, it can be very difficult for a place kicker to come in as a rookie and unseat a veteran. So it'll be interesting because he's got, a stronger leg than what the Bears currently have now. But is he going to be as accurate? And that what we got is just like, put the points up on the board. He rarely misses. JP Richardson is slot possession receiver. He's a tough guy. He'll go over the middle, but he's not very fast, not real big, 5'11" type guy, but might be 200 pounds. So I think it's going to be, the guy from A&M, Jedi Walker's going to have a better shot at making the club than J.P. Richardson. Jeremy Robinson from Kansas, teammate of Booker that we currently have a year ago in 2023. He's kind of an interesting guy. He's got some length. He's a little stiff in the hips. He's not as fluid as you'd like, but he's got some size and length to him. He runs in the mid 4.7s. Had 4.5, 5 sacks, something like this year. Could be an area of need. We got to let that play out. But he plays well enough that he will challenge at least for a spot or challenge for a practice spot. Power Eccles and Major Burns, they flash at you. Polls have told me he's looking for speed at the linebacker position, and Power Eccles runs like Sanborn runs, mid 4.7s. So he's instinctive. He made plays at North Carolina. Would be a Mike or a Will here, probably more of a Mike. I don't think he's going to challenge the draft choice. How do you say the draft choice name? Hippolyte?
Hippolyte.
Hippolyte. And Major Burns, I don't like. Major Burns is a decent player, and he's got ideal size, got good speed, but he's just not anywhere near as good as Tysheem Johnson as far as the tape I watched.
Let me go back to Power Echoes. You say he probably wasn't drafted because he's under 6 feet tall, 5'11".
No. That's the safety from Oregon, Tysheem Johnson. He's 5'9.5".
Oh, okay. Tight. Wow, 5'9.5". I didn't realize he was that short. I do know that Power Echoes is 5'11", the linebacker. Do you think
he's 5'11" and like 225 or something like that.
Okay.
But he only ran 4.72. He's not a bad player. I had done him during the year for one of the agents. But you figure there's one job might be open at the linebacker position, and they got a draft choice there in the 4th round. You already know unless the draft choice is a flop, and he's really good. Mm-hmm. When I watch the tape, I'm going, how did this guy not get invited to the combine? He's productive. He's fast. He hits people. Very instinctive. Nothing not to like.
Greg, is there a selection committee for people who are invited to the combine? How's that work?
Yeah, there's the guys who get unanimous picks are the first ones,
mm-hmm.
and then they got to fill a certain, and every year it can change a little bit depending on the strength of the position, but you got to have, a certain amount at every position and a minimum of a certain amount. And once they get through the unanimous guys, then they go to, they got all but one vote, then all but 2 votes type of thing as they go down the list. And they have actually 2 different selection times. The first one is the end of the season, where they don't know how many underclassmen are going to be in, so they invite the cream of the crop from the seniors, so to speak. And then they wait to see, the middle of January, find out who's entered the draft from the underclassmen. Now, that number's gone down the last 2 years, but they invite most of those guys, and then they go back to fill in the rest till they get to that 325 to 335 number.
Okay.
But, Luke Newman didn't get invited either.
Yeah, it seems like I've heard more complaints about this season about players that were not invited to the combine than I've had that I've heard in several years. So it's interesting. I was reading a scouting report on Major Burns, and it seems like one of the hangups of his game is he's inconsistent with his tackling, especially near the line of scrimmage. In today's football game, a safety who is not a sure tackler at any part of the field, to me, seems like a real losing situation for the guy.
Well, you know what it is, although he flashes coming up and banging you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. A lot of times he hangs back and doesn't attack the line of scrimmage like you'd prefer.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it fill the alley or whatever. I like to describe it. Some guys wait for the play to come to them instead of them going to the play.
Yeah.
And yeah, he might be more like that, but he does. There's a couple of times where you see him come up in like short yardage situations and lay a good hit on a guy, but you just don't see it enough. He's got decent ball skills. He had a pick six. I don't think it was either this year or the year before, where he jumped a route, did a good job. I mean, there's some things he does that are good.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why he got signed. But is he better than the guys they got? And to me, I don't care how, they had I can't think of the guy's name they had in New Orleans last year, the little guy who's been in the league for 100 years. That guy's only 5'9" and played in the league.
Spros.
And, this kid from Oregon, he's like that. Good. I think a safety and linebackers got to have really good instincts, because they see the whole field, and where a corner is seeing literally a quarter of the field. And if you don't have good instincts, it's just, you don't stand a chance, because, you can say it this way. You're either a reactor or an anticipator. You want an anticipator. A reactor is going to be a step late getting to it, because he's got to see it, figure it out, get to it.
Okay. Again, looking at this list here, that's the wrong list. Let's put that one up. Do you like the chances of Jonathan Kim giving Santos a run for his money and camp, or is this just a camp body?
I think it's more in a camp body, but Santos is automatic, especially from like 45 in. Mm-hmm. And so, he had one blocked. I think that's probably the weakest part of his game. He doesn't get the ball up quickly. And so he's got a lower trajectory kick. And he's good up to about 55. After that, it's who knows. But he's just so consistent that it's going to be hard to unseat him. This guy, like I said, it's all in the head. He's got to be able to handle the pressure, and that's the biggest thing. And I found that Robbie Gould got cut before. So most good kickers in the league got cut at least once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you please repeat your evaluation of Diontae Henkins? We got a few people who just arrived, and we're anxious to hear your thoughts on the Texas State running back.
Okay, he played his first 3 years at UTEP. And put up, and in fact, I did a little research on him. He was like one of the top rated high school running backs in the state of Texas, right from El Paso. So he goes to the local school and has pretty good numbers. Never had 1,000 yards, 750, 850, around 900, 5 yards a carry type guy. Caught the ball pretty good. And then he transfers for his final year to Texas State and has like 272 yards or something. And, so right away, you saw good production, and the tape was good when he was at UTEP. And most of the time, he plays in rotation. But then he wasn't even doing that at Texas State. Tells me it just wasn't a good fit, and like I said earlier, sometimes you transfer and same with a free agent in the NFL, you think the grass is greener and you find out it wasn't. You're in a pretty good place to begin with.
Yep.
And So I think that was the case with this guy, because if he's the guy that was, shown on tape from UTEP in 21, 22, and 23, that guy can challenge. He's a good power back. He's different than the other guys they got, except for Roshan. And I think there's, you think there might be a little bit of a question mark with Roshan. We just don't know the answer to that.
Okay. My buddy Emery Hunt writes in his draft guide that he's really a big fan of Henkins' footwork. I think he does a good job of navigating through the line of scrimmage with busy footwork.
That's good. I mean, he's got it right.
Yeah, and then he adds, shows he can quickly burst out of a cut, not needing to slow down to change direction. Can operate well in any run scheme, and then areas of improvement. His long speed is a bit of a question, which shows up when he needs to burst out into the open field, and he would like to see more growth in the passing game. Emery does a really good job of taking a look at these small school players. That's why I buy his guide every season. All right, let us now, a big topic of discussion in the chat, and it kind of follows along with talking about Henkins, is whether the team should acquire a free agent running back. It is a hot topic. I looked at the list. There's more than a dozen. There's probably close to 2 dozen. I just jotted down some of the names like Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards, Jeff Wilson, Nick Chubb, Naheem Miller-Hines, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Diontae Foreman, Amir Abdullah, Chase Edmonds, Trey Sermon, Ernest Johnson, and Jermichael Hasty. There are probably another 10 or 15 more. What do you think, first of all, just from the standpoint of bringing in a free agent running back? Are you for, against? I see that kind of Cheshire cat smile you got going on there. What do you think?
Because the whole thing started with a bullshit statement by some clown radio jock in Cleveland.
Oh, regarding Chub?
Yeah, they're going to sign with an NFC North team. Well, that must mean it's the Bears. There are 4 teams.
That's hilarious.
So let's talk about Chub. Chub at one time was a really good running back. Okay, he had his first knee injury that a lot of people thought would end his career. He tore his PCL, his MCL, and his LCL along with cartilage damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Came back from it and had some strong years. Then in 2022 or 2023, he tears early in the season his ACL and his MCL. So he's torn the MCL, same knee, torn the MCL twice. He's torn basically the MCL twice and every other ligament. You have 4 ligaments in the knee. He's torn every single one. Took him 13 months to come back from that, which is a long time. Plays 8 games, looked very average in those 8 games, and then breaks his foot. Misses the rest of the season. He's 30 years old. He's beaten up. Yeah, I see the pictures of him. He's jumping over a hurdle and he's squatting with 500 pounds or whatever. Is that running? Is that cutting? Nope. Mm-hmm. And what's a running back got to do? Cut.
Yep.
And cut a lot. Okay. I don't see that one happening. Could they bring him in for a workout? Yeah. Why not? But I think that, like I say, people got all excited because a knucklehead says something that was probably 95.9% made up.
Yeah,
how would he know that? He doesn't.
That's right. Kay says that's because Cleveland radio DJs know all about the Bears.
Yeah, well, so that one, we got to have Nick Chub. And then they pick another guy, J.K. Dobbins. Well, let's take a look at J.K. Dobbins' career. He has missed, since he's been in the league, more games than he's played.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's played, of the available games, he's played 45% of those games. Why do you want him? If a running back can't play, he's useless. If a running back doesn't have any quickness, he's useless. And running backs who get hurt every time they walk on the field are useless. So I don't see it happening. I think it's, you know what this is? This is, you know, the same thing with the running back in the draft. They're going to take the guy to trade, you know, move up to in the first round to take the kid from Boise State. Did it happen? Nope. And it was never going to happen. So I just think some of the stuff, the fan base catches a hold of something, even though there's no fact to it, and just goes overboard on it. But here's the best part. Poles was on ESPN. He goes, well, yeah, we could bring on a running back, but if we do, it won't be till later, because I really want to see what the guys we got can do first. I mean, there was your answer.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. First of all, let me share this comment from Carl over at the Thigh and Smile podcast. He says that your logic would suggest that Rojo should be cut.
No, I just don't. I'm not sitting in the building and know what the medical report is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's, you know, and he wore the extra, what do you call those? I don't know what you call those helmets. I forgot the name.
Guardian helmets, I think.
Yeah, he wore a Guardian helmet after he came back from the concussion. He just didn't seem to be running as hard. Mm-hmm. But now he's year out, and we'll see. But, you know, would they have taken Henderson had he been there? He got picked the pick before. I would say yes.
Yeah, me too.
The interesting thing is, would they have taken Luther Burden at 41 or still trade out at 41?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That, I think they would have passed on Burden, in my opinion. But, all right. So, one of the reasons I feel they should look into signing a free agent, or at least start to bring some of these guys in and take a look at them, you know, guys like Cam Akers. I know he's had his injury history too.
All those guys have had issues, if you want to use it.
Absolutely.
Naheem Miller Hines has, Chub has, Jamal Williams has. Some of these guys are on the wrong side of 30. You know, so it's like, are they better? Don't forget now, you drafted a guy, it was the 7th round. Watch the tape.
Yeah, he's good.
2,500 yards the last 2 years, better than 5 yards a carry. He doesn't go down easy. Mm-hmm. He runs hard. He's got a burst. He plays a lot faster than that 4.6 speed. You know, I think I saw him get caught once from behind. You know, he's got a bunch of long runs. I did some tape the other day, counted 22, explosive runs. That's over 20 yards.
That's awesome.
Okay, so, you know, and how many running backs are going to be on the roster? 4 at the end of the year. Okay, they got in camp, you want 5 or 6. There's 6 right now. And I was saying the other day, 5, not remembering that Dawkins was signed. So you've got plenty of guys for camp.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want more than 6 because you got to give the guys reps. And a couple of those guys, you know, they won't use much in games, in the 3 preseason games. But you got plenty. You can't have overload at running back and then be undermanned at other positions.
Makes sense. Here is the running back depth, and I apologize. This is just something that I whipped together, so it's not accurate by any means in terms of a depth chart, and I may have left some names out. For instance, Henkins is not listed here among the running back group.
Well, he'd be the 6. You got 5, and then Henkins. Right. Hankins isn't officially signed because they won't announce it until these guys get here Thursday night.
Right.
But then they'll announce it. And then they got 6.
So I look at DeAndre Swift, Ian Wheeler, Roshan Johnson, Kyle Monange, and Travis Homer. And I as a fan, a pretend GM, I look at that roster and I say I wouldn't mind getting another veteran in here to at least compete. I don't have any faith in Travis Homer as a running back. I know he's got good special teams ability. Totally. Ian Wheeler, what can we expect out of Ian Wheeler? He looked good last season, but he had a horrific knee injury. He may not even be available to go at camp. They're keeping that very secret.
You're gonna know the answer to that maybe by the end of OTAs. Okay.
Yeah.
If they like the progress that he's made coming back from the injury, then, but theoretically, you only need 5 to go into camp.
Right.
Now they got 6.
Okay.
So I get what you're saying. I don't think one of those guys could challenge any of the people on that list. They're guys that have played their best football. It's behind them. And so, running backs have a short shelf life when they are going to be good. They brought in Williams the other day. They signed him. Nope. Now, they brought him in for a workout. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't later on. But, when Paul said, I want to see what these guys can do. Now, part of that, you can find out a little bit about a running back. You're not going to see him break tackles, obviously, but you're going to see his burst, his cutting ability, how he catches the ball, that type of thing. And really, the number one thing is the intelligence, too. How fast is he picking up things? And it's not that hard. It's not running back's not a position where you got to, you can bring a guy in off the street on Monday and play him on Sunday if you have to, but you can't do that at a lot of other positions.
Free agent running backs are all Jags, says Carl. Carl wants to trade for Kenneth Walker. Are you even getting those preliminary phone calls? Hey, are you interested in trading Walker in case something happens with the running back core?
Why? That's okay. You said in case. What if nothing happens and then you wasted a draft choice?
Well, I'm not saying make the deal, but calling Seattle and saying, listen, what are you asking for Walker? And they tell you a 4th-round pick. And so, if there's an injury coming, you're either going to give up a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick. You lowball them. And so what I'm saying is just like they do, like you've shared with us, they do during the draft about trading picks. Is there any preliminary talks in case you want to make a trade? You're already finding out what they would send a guy over here for.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, that's not going to be, but even a 4th or a 5th is high. What the Bears get from Cincinnati when they trade him in a running back? How about a 7th?
That's right. You can get a decent running back for a couple of footballs in a place.
Right. I mean, they're not hard to find. You can find a body whenever you want a body. That's easy to do. People got in their mind that I got to get, a guy like the guy at New York. Well, he might cost you a 3rd. Poles isn't giving up a 3rd. Don't forget, you got a lot of money going to Swift this year.
Yeah, that's true. Well, but he is one of the guys that worries me. Now, he has only played 17 games in a season last season when he was with Detroit.
He's missed 1 game in the last 2 years.
In the last 2 years,
Philly. Okay. So, and if you put the 2 years together, he's averaged over 1,000 yards.
Yeah. That is correct, but it just seems to me like he's not a dependable, durable back because of his size. I just feel a little nervous going into the season without another established running back behind him, and maybe Rojo, maybe Manange, maybe these other guys are going to fill the bill. But I wouldn't mind exploring the possibility of acquiring a veteran free agent, seeing what it costs, and being prepared if something terrible happens.
The only problem with calling ahead of time to see what it costs, they're going to give you a high number, and like they always do. And then when you call back, if you call back, they're going to start at that high number. That doesn't mean it's going to stay there.
Right.
But that's what you got a pro department for. Now, here's part of the equation that nobody brings up. You had a real strong running back class.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams took running backs.
There's going to be some good ones out in the street.
There's going to be some good guys. Might be post June 1st cuts.
Great point.
Okay, for the salary distribution of being a post June 1st cut. So, and that takes you halfway through OTAs. I still think if they sign a running back, because it's not a position that, you even got to be here for the OTAs, they can learn right away. Mm-hmm. That if there is a running back added to this group, you won't see him until August.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well,
whenever camp opens, July 28th, August 1st, whatever the date of camp is. They don't have the extra game this year. Last year, they had the extra game. No extra game this year, so it's probably, August 2nd, August 3rd.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying, why are we talking about running backs when this team needs to acquire another defensive end? You agree with that?
Theoretically, yes. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it logically, you say they had an opportunity to draft a defensive end in the second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, and they said no each time.
Yeah.
And there were good guys on the board.
I've got up on the screen here, again, my unofficial depth chart. And when you look at just the DEs, you can say, yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing in someone. But some of these defensive tackles are going to play the edge position too. There's talk about Gervon Dexter playing some snaps at edge.
That's not management talk. That's fan talk. And it's fan talk like this Nick Chub talk. Well, and know where it started? He looked real lean on the day he reported to the offseason program. Well, he was going to be playing defensive end, even though he weighed 315 pounds. So you got to look at where the source of some of this stuff is.
Sure.
And now, if there's a guy at the tackle position that could play edge, it's the rookie Shamar Turner, because he's already played it.
Yeah.
Shamar Turner, his weight fluctuated in college 20 pounds.
He was only moved inside because of injury to the defensive tackles. Isn't that right?
That part I don't know, but it was pretty damn good inside. And then I read some comments by some other coaches, and they thought next to the Ole Miss guy that he had the quickest first step in this draft class of the defensive tackles, and his hand use was the best. So it's like, he's real explosive with his hands, and he controls guys that are a lot bigger. Now, he was 290 at the combine. He was 294 at the pro day. Could he be, you could probably, he's got a real quick first step. You could probably keep him at 290 to 295 and still play him outside on some downs. Okay. And because you don't want him, if you're going to use him inside, you don't want him dropping down to 275. But, generally speaking, you're going to keep 8 defensive linemen, 4 tackles, and 4 ends. I could make just from the depth chart you put up there that there's 9 that are going to challenge. The guy who's in trouble is Pickens. Okay, and Pickens is first pick in the 3rd round a few years ago. Flash as a rookie, had some injury problems last year, and then I don't know if he was in the doghouse then with the staff or whatever, but it just never saw him really do anything. So, and then this guy Chris Williams, who they gave up 5th or 6th for. He played pretty decent football.
Yep.
And they tendered him. He's making like close to $3.5 million this year. So he's making good money. You could say, okay, 5 are going to make it. Billings, Jarrett, Dexter, Turner. That's 4. And then you got 1 more from Williams, Pickens, and Ford. Ford actually was a big sucker, like a 330, 335, who, when he got to play at the end of the year, played pretty good, as an anchor type thing. But, I thought based on Ben Johnson's comment when he first came in, they needed another anchor type guy, but they had the opportunity to do that, and they took Shamar Turner. So they took who they felt was the best player. There was plenty of edges available when they took Shamar Turner, guys that are good, like Landon Jackson and stuff. They had opportunities to take them. They didn't do them. They passed. So when you pass, now granted, we don't know what their board looks like, but when you're passing, that has to tell you something about what they feel about with the position.
I'll tell you, when I look at the people I got up on the screen here, I'm also a little bit concerned about the linebacker position. Edmonds and TJ Edwards are your starters, but now that you have not re-signed Jack Sanborn, that strong side linebacker.
You're missing one name there.
Oh, what am I missing?
The draft choice from a couple of years ago.
Noah Sewell? He's on there. Yeah. He's on there as the strong
side. Oh,
you
got him on the strong side. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Because reality is they only play 2 linebackers. Very seldom are going to play 3. But yeah, and then you got Hypolite, and you got the other one they signed, but I don't think he'll challenge for a job. Last year, go back to what they had last year. 5 linebackers on the 53. And that didn't change throughout the year.
Wow. Okay.
And the guy they like, who was an undrafted free agent last year, put him on the practice squad because he really played more of an edge than a linebacker in college, was Carl Jones. He's another real fast guy, a little bit undersized at 5'11 and a half, maybe just 6 feet, but he can run. So, even if Sewell still flames out, you got Carl Jones, who, if you look at just the preseason play, Carl Jones outplayed Noah Sewell.
Yeah, very true.
So, but if they go 5, you could say Edmonds, Edwards, Hypolite is a 4th round pick, and Ogbonmig, however you say his name is, that's 4, and then one of Carl Jones, Noah Sewell, and that's your 5.
I hope this Hypolite guy really works out, because I would feel a lot better about this linebacker group. And
well, don't forget they used a 4th round pick on him. Yeah. So and so the analysts can say, "Oh, here's a reach." You know what? The analyst, that's an analyst's opinion is one guy's opinion, and we've talked about that. Sure. It's like my opinion is my opinion. Okay, inside a draft room, you got at least a half a dozen opinions, and you're going to have an area scout, an over-the-top scout. You're going to have one of the decision makers, maybe 2 of the decision makers. You're going to have a coordinator and a position coach. It's a lot of different reports, and the consensus was, when you got that many reports, is this is the guy we want.
That should make you feel better. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, to say they just pick this name, knowing how the process works, to say that you just pick this guy's name out of the air, well, let's take this guy. It doesn't work that guy. You had you got a lot of reports on him, and everybody said, we want him. Yeah. I mean, 4th round is a good round.
Hey, Greg, before you joined the NFL, I saw on NFL films that the early years of the draft, a lot of teams would rely on newspaper reports for, scouting of players, like they'd read a report of some kid from Texas University or Badunga College in whatever, and they would actually rely on that because they only had 1 or 2 scouts. Have you heard stories like that?
It was before my time, because I know that when I started with Buffalo in 1981, they had 8 scouts. Okay, and they were part of a combine that does not exist anymore. It was called Quadra.
Oh, and there's another one named Blesto, right?
Well, Blesto's still here.
Oh, they're still around. I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay. You know what Blesto means? Bears,
No.
Lions, Eagles, Steelers, Children Organization.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
So we were at Blesto. We were in Blesto when I first came here, and we pulled out. We wanted to go to National because we thought National was better.
Mhm.
And so because the Bears were a founding member of Blesto,
Mhm.
we had to go to Mrs. McCaskey.
Is that right?
And Mrs. McCaskey goes, does that mean they take this true story? Does that mean they take the B out of the Blesto?
That's funny. Lesto.
And you know, that was national scouting, but back then there was Quadra. And
Uh-huh.
Quadra was Seattle, San Francisco, Buffalo, and Dallas.
Mm.
And like every report that I wrote for them went to all four clubs.
Mhm.
So really, you know, except for a couple scouts with each team, every report got shared. So you're really almost like working for four clubs. And so, but you had a multitude of reports. Now, before that, I don't know, they used to, I heard stories say, well, they used to, you know, look at the Street and Smith's guide or something. You know, was that really true? Who the hell knows? You
Yeah,
know,
who knows? That is funny
a
stuff.
lot of the guys that were scouting were old coaches that really couldn't coach anymore. And,
Mhm.
but, you know, scouting has become, it is a science, and you got a lot of young, really bright guys.
Yeah. I believe it's a science and an art as well, but a topic for another day. By the way, thank you, Maddie, for the $5 donation. And he writes, screw everyone else's draft boards. Our team took a linebacker. They did their homework. I like the attitude, Maddie. I think this is a time of year where you have to trust Ryan Poles. You can question some moves here and there, but as a fan, I prefer to trust my GM and then complain after they lose. Not before.
Theoretically, you could go like, you could do it this way, and then on paper it looks better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, move Manungai to the 4th round, move Luke Newman to the 5th round, Hyperlight to the 6th round, and the quarter to the 7th. Oh, that was a great draft.
A+.
Okay, but that's not how they had them lined up on the board.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I love Luke Newman now.
I know you have. You've been talking about it for almost a year now.
You know, so I know first time I watched the tape, I said, "Holy shit, this guy's good." The only thing he's got is shorter arms, but he can get away with it inside.
You feel comfortable he can play guard in the NFL?
Yeah, I saw him play guard at the Big Ten. You know, put it this way: what sold me. I had originally wait a minute, you know, I found the report.
Oh, cool.
I was saying I got to dig it out. I'm going to read it.
Excellent.
Got to dig it up again.
Brad Chambers says, don't care about being positive. How many wins do we have in the division? Brad, I hear you. You know, losing gets tiring, but be positive at least for a month or two. You know, coming off a pretty good draft. I love the way Greg just phrased it. If you move the players around in different rounds, all of a sudden you take a different perspective on this thing. Luke Newman is a steal, 7th round. Manungai, wow, 4th round. I love it. By the way,
okay, here we go. I got it. I just
all right.
hold it up. Okay.
Go ahead.
50-year player and a grad transfer to Michigan State from Holy Cross. Starting at left guard and playing well. This kid gets after it on every down and always looks to finish. If he lacks anything, it's natural size. I thought his weight in the spring when the National Blesto scouts went through was 301. Then I found out later, and I put it in an update, he was 315. Okay, weighed 301 in the spring and looks a little narrow, and his arms may be a little short. Still plays hard. Quick off the ball, into his blocks, has snap in his hips on contact, runs his feet to generate some movement, doesn't always get movement, but consistently gets good position and wins the rep. And pass pro, he's consistently solid, sets quickly and shows he can anchor, but in fairness, he hasn't played versus a real big defensive tackle yet. Got beat one time versus Maryland on a counter move, but just gave up a pressure. Usually gets good punch, keeps his hands to the side, keeps good position. I said overall, then I got an update coming up. Overall, Luke is a solid player. Just wish he was a little bigger. Grades out well. May lack top natural size, but and that may keep him in day 3, but he's a player. Just watching the way he plays the game, if I was a coach, I might want to move him to center as he is smart and alert. Then I got an update. Learned that he's up to 315, and after watching the Ohio State game, I'm moving him up to day 2. He's just too fucking productive. Seldom loses a rep. Ohio State has a quality defensive line, and Luke played just as well versus them as he has versus the others. I still feel that if an NFL coach moves him to center, he may be a Pro Bowl type player.
That is a great report. You swear in your reports, huh?
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Now, somewhere in here I got, if I can find it, it might take me. I got.
Can I ask you a question while you're searching?
Yeah.
Because Matty, with another $5 donation, says he really likes the guys in the trenches to have a wrestling background. You, as a scout, you feel the same way?
Yes.
Tell me why.
But because you know how to use your hands and know how to play with leverage.
Mm-hmm.
You've learned how to play with leverage. Wrestling's a leverage sport. So
the guys that host the Friday show, Willis Twins, they're both former wrestlers, and they say the same thing. And I'm trying to set up a cage match between the two of them, but we'll need some money to make that happen because they live in different states. So, Maddie, your $5 is being put towards flying one of those guys to Indiana so you can have this cage match.
It'd take me to, I mean, I've got literally hundreds in here, and to find the Rutgers kid, maybe.
Manange?
Yeah, because I wrote him too. And let me just zip through this real quick and see if I can find it.
Sure thing. But while you're doing that, I want our fans to listen to these calls by an announcer on Manangai runs. I pulled this because I think the Bears radio announcer is going to have fun with the name Manangai.
Is in the slot left. Manangai, look at him bouncing outside. That's special. He is special. That is some kind of Manangai. Push these guys.
I love that. That is some kind of Manangai. That's a t-shirt, man. That is some kind of Manangai. What do you guys think?
Joniak will probably, hey, the guy's a player. There's no question he's a player. And, you know, here's the thing. He was the Rutgers offense. Everybody knew he was getting the ball. He still averaged 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, he is good.
There's a thing, just if you want to see it, the one guy on Bears Twitter that will put out like
oh yeah, I forgot all these clips.
Plays, yeah, you know, all these different clips of different players. You know, every play so-and-so played. Well, he put one out yesterday or the day before on Manangai against Ohio State.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
Pretty darn impressive.
Very impressive. The kid runs hard. Yeah, he's got.
And Ohio State had like all 4 of their defensive line drafted.
Do you think a guy, and Chim is a Detroit Lions fan, which is why he's writing, yeah, he's the next Walter Payton. All right, Chim. Enough of that. Behave.
I compared him to Joe Morris.
Joe Morris is good, yeah. I like
Joe
that.
Morris is about the same size. Joe might be a step faster. This guy's probably a little more elusive, but just a real tough guy that doesn't get hurt. But, hey, the guy's a hell. You know, if you would have told me you're going to get this guy in the 7th round, I mean, shit, this guy's a hell of a back.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim. All right. Let us have our fun here.
It'd take you too long to find it. I'll get it out, print it, and then I'll have it in front of me for next week.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, and bring on any of the old scouting reports too, like on Devin or players like that. It'd be fun to.
Well, I don't have those because those are sitting in Hallis Hall.
Should be sitting over in the Hall of Fame.
So
let's take.
report, we everything was written on a computer, and I didn't print my reports for myself.
Yeah,
a couple of them maybe, but it was just they stay in the computer. They're still there somewhere.
hopefully. Okay, let's continue to take a look at the defense's depth chart. Let's go over to the defensive backfield. Got Jalen Johnson and Zay Frazier and Nick McLeod on one side of the ball. Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, Amir Speed on another. And at the cornerback position, the slot position, Kyler Gordon, Josh Blackwell, and Sean Weed. There's 6 guys here who are going to make the team. Johnson, Stevenson, Gordon, Blackwell, Smith, and Frazier. You agree with that? They better make the team.
I think they'll end up keeping 5, not 6. To me, Frazier's he's a height, weight, speed guy if you're going to play a lot of press, he's going to be fine. If you're going to play now, Allen plays a lot of press, so that it might be right in his toolbox. But I don't think he's as good as zone. But he's almost 25, so you got to get him. If you're going to keep him, you got to get him on the field. But he's a 4.3 guy. He's a 6'2 guy that runs 4.3.
Wow.
So it's his talent. And when he had 6 interceptions this year, 5 interceptions this year, 4 of them in 2 games. Plays the ball really well, but all those come in, when he gets in the hip pocket and press coverage, he's really, really good. Zone, not quite as good.
Then at the safety position, we got Brisker and Byard as your starters. Owens and Hicks are the backups, just like last year. They've added Tavarius Moore and Alex Cook.
Well, Tavarius Moore was here last year. He was on the practice squad and then brought up.
That's right. And somebody in the chat, who was it? Maddie says that he thinks Major Burns is probably going to take Jonathan Owens' spot on this roster. I don't know about that.
If it was me, it wouldn't be Major Burns. It would be the guy from Oregon.
Oh, okay.
He's just a lot better football player. Like I said, he's 5'9.5", so he doesn't have the height.
Tasheem Johnson.
Yeah. I can look up all his numbers if you want, on that sheet, like the APT stuff.
Yeah, if it's handy.
Let me dig that up here.
And then I'll continue to describe what we've got here in terms of the depth and the defensive backfield. So we mentioned Byard, Hicks, and I also included special teams on this. I don't think we're going to see any change. Cairo Santos will likely win the kicking job over Kim. Torrey Taylor, right now there's nobody in camp to punt, to compete against them, or to give them a rest. And Scott Daly, and they brought in Luke Elkine as a long snapper to compete with Scott Daly.
They got a punter coming in on a tryout basis.
For
the weekend.
Yeah, you need somebody to keep Torrey company.
Well, like in the rookie mini camp, none of the veterans, guys from the practice squad can take part, but the no veteran can take part this weekend.
Oh, okay.
This is strictly a rookie mini camp. I just got to go back. There's 1,200 pages of this stuff.
Jeez, yes. And then I will add on, I think the defensive one we've already looked at for the front 7. Over on the offense, let's see what I got here. Starting on the bottom there, Caleb, Tyson, Case Keenum, and Austin Reed are the 4 quarterbacks that will be in camp. I would not be surprised, Greg, if Case Keenum does not make the team. And instead they go with Austin Reed as the third quarterback. If
I will disagree with you on that one.
Because
they went out to specifically sign him.
I don't think the guy is needed. I mean, does Caleb really need a tutor, a mentor in the quarterback?
Well, how the media puts it and how the coaches put it, it's two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy's played a lot of football. He's been around. He's smart. He can just help a guy settle down. Sometimes it's good to have a vet, a voice.
Yeah.
So, okay, Tysheem Johnson.
Okay.
Strong safety, 5'09", 195, 4'49", 35 vertical, 9'9" broad, 4'4", 20 shuttle, 7'3", cone. Now get this, he's got a wingspan now. He's 5'09", so that's like 69 and a half inches, right?
Mm-hmm.
His wingspan 72 and 5/8.
Get out. That's ridiculous. That's carnival stuff.
So, and I knew nothing did not do this guy, knew nothing about him. I should have, when I saw his number, I should have figured out something because they gave him number 0. And you put on the tape and you go, holy shit, this guy's pretty good. So I think he's the guy that'll challenge more than Burns. Even though Burns is the height, weight, speed guy.
I'm going to have to look at some of that tape. Very, very cool. All righty. Anything here on the offense that strikes you as we could see some camp battles? I think that the wide receivers is almost set with DJ Moore, Devin Duvernay, Roma Dunse, Tyler Scott, Luther Burden, and Olamide Zacchaeus. Boykin, Samori Turi, Maurice Alexander, those guys aren't going to make the team.
Well, generally speaking, you're going to keep 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure Moore, Dunze, Burden, Duvernay are 4 because Duvernay is a punt returner. Then you got 2 after that. Okay, mm-hmm. And now neither Duvernay nor Zacchaeus got a ton of money. Mm-hmm. Miles Boykin, I loved coming out of college, and he never did a thing in the pros. Tyler Scott, he's got the gun to his head right now. He's got to do it, or he'll be gone. Samori Toure, was with Green Bay. And then he was a late ad after the final cuts. Right. So he never got up. He might have been up for one game or something, but he's, he made some plays at Green Bay. Could he challenge? But, this guy they signed, I think, is going to at least challenge. Mm-hmm. And that's Ja'Day Walker from Texas A&M, because he's 6'3", 200 pounds, and runs a 4.47. And he's got really good hands. He's a good route runner. So, do you want? I'm just looking at like what Detroit had. And they had a couple big guys, mm-hmm. and Rome right now is the only big guy at like 6'2 3/4, right, listed as 6'3", and all the other guys are like 6 foot guys or 5'11" guys or something like that. And so, Duvernay, I think, is 5'11", and Zacchaeus might even be 5'10". So, it's, what do they want to do? Do you want to have like another big X on the roster? And that's a coaching decision. And obviously the guy's got to show up at camp and do something. Right. But the college tape was impressive. I mean, if you look at Boykin, he fits the bill perfectly, but he hasn't pissed a drop since he's been in the league.
A lot of people in the chat are saying Tyler Scott is probably going to be the odd man out.
He's got they say it's throw out everything from last year. It's a new beginning. Remember in the final preseason game, he caught like 10 passes or something?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the breakout game. Never saw him during the season. And it's like, why? So what was the problem?
Yeah.
Why was he in the doghouse? Did he not know? Part of it's up here. You might not know what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And you can't be, and if you can't be trusted to do the right thing, then you're not going to get in the game.
Yep. Squeegee says when Scott almost took a knee with that kickoff in Green Bay, I think something switched in him. He played lights out the rest of that game. Yeah, sometimes a guy just needs a certain thing to happen, and he starts to play better. J2K says Scott catches the ball like he's a running back. I'm not sure there's a difference, right? But what difference?
I'll say Manungai receiving is not going to be his strong point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he can catch the ball. I mean, you're not going to be using him downfield like you would with a guy like Swift.
Right.
But, for your swing passes, your check downs, those types of things, yeah, he's fine for that. But it's just what the skill set is, and you work your offense around what the skill set is of the players in the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at offensive line and tight end depth. Braxton Jones is penciled in as the starter, but his job is in danger primarily because of his injury concern. Karan Amagaje and Ozzie Trapillo will get a look at left tackle. Joe Tooney, Luke Newman, Bill Murray at the left guard position. Could be a strong spot of the team.
Luke Newman's going to be playing center too. So
yeah, okay, good. Because I was a little worried about the depth in the center position.
No, Ryan said that when they drafted him, because versatility can play more. So you keep 9 offensive linemen generally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got probably 4 tackles. So that'd be Wright, Jones, Amagaji, Trapillo, assuming Jones is all right. Theo Bennett actually played guard last year, even though he's 6'7". Because he's got 32-inch arms.
Jeez.
At the guard position, you got Thuney, Jackson. I'm putting Bill Murray in there just on the way he played, and Newman. So right there you got 8, and then your 9th is Drew Dahlman, and your backup center is Luke Newman. The guy I think who could be the odd guy out is Ryan Bates.
Interesting, because Poe seemed to love him, wanting to acquire him first year.
We know what the problem is. He's got an arthritic shoulder. So how long? And then I'm not breaking news here. He went to Panama, had stem cell injections done, if that's exactly what you do. He had done, and supposedly that helped the situation. You can't cure arthritis. You can alleviate pain in whatever way you can, but it's arthritis is the type of thing that it's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. So where does he stand right now? And if you get rid of him, you pick up $3.5 million.
Yeah, almost $4 million, right?
Well, he got a $500,000 roster bonus the third day of the league year back in March. So he's got $3.5 million left on the contract, and if you got him, you get that back. Now, if he is healthy, if his shoulder is fine, then he makes the team. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is, number one, what is Braxton's availability? When will he be ready? Will he be ready to go at the beginning of camp? They're taking the conservative approach, saying, well, he might not be ready to go right at the beginning. But that's still 3 months from now. Yep. A lot can happen in 3 months. Amagaji, does he having a full off season to work, and I'm a big Amagaji fan. Does he, step up and be the type of player they thought he could be when they drafted him? Now, Ozzie, he hadn't played left tackle since 2022. Athletically, he can do it. There's no problem with that as far as having the range and the agility, the recovery quickness, and all that. It's that he hasn't done it. So some guy asked me on X, what's the difference? And I said, well, when you're playing on the right side, you're playing a right-handed stance. So your right foot's back. Your right hand is on the ground unless you're, if you're a guard, your right foot's on the ground. Sometimes with the tackles, you're always in a 2-point stance, but your right foot's still back. And so everything is, your hand use and your footwork is one way on the right side and the opposite on the left side. So, your kick step on the left side is leading with your left leg, not leading with your right leg. And so it's a matter of getting the steps down and feeling like it's second nature to you. Now there have been there's history in the league of guys who were right tackles in college who played left tackle in the league and pretty darn good. Tyron Smith, who was an all-pro from like his second year on with the Cowboys, just retired. He was a right tackle at USC, left tackle for the Cowboys. What's the guy's name? Plays for the 49ers. He's been in the league 100 years. He was a right tackle at Oklahoma, left tackle, and probably the best left tackle in the game over the last 10 years. He was right tackle at Oklahoma. The kid from Iowa plays for Tampa Bay, played right, and he was like Ozzie, played left and right in college. So
Tristan Wirfs.
Tristan Wirfs. So it's part of it's on the kid in doing all you can do to feel comfortable playing on the opposite side. Getting generally it's. You see guys who played left tackle in college move over to the right side, and it's an easy adjustment for them going from the left to the right. And for some reason, it's harder going the right to the left because you see it happen with left tackles in college going to right side in the pros. And you could use Detroit as a perfect example with Sewell, who was a left tackle in college, and he's playing right tackle at Detroit, and a darn good one. So Lane Johnson with the Eagles was now he was a guy who was a tight end until his final year at Oklahoma. He was a JC transfer. And when I was with the Eagles, we drafted him. And he was he was a Senior Bowl wonder. He was like the best player down at the Senior Bowl that year. And one of the few times where a guy really jumps up because nobody could get by him in the one-on-ones. And then they just kept doing work. He ends up being the 4th or 5th pick in the draft. But he was maybe a 2-year left tackle, but because he was a tight end at Oklahoma. And then the Eagles put him on the right side because they had a left tackle. And he's been an all-pro for 6-7 times or something, and it just, that happens a lot. McGlinchey, left tackle at Notre. Well, McGlinchey, let's be fair, he was a right tackle at Notre Dame. Then they moved him to left tackle. They moved their best lineman to left tackle for their senior year. Ronnie Stanley was a right tackle. Then he got moved to the left side. And they did the same thing with McGlinchey, but when the 49ers got him, they moved him to the right side.
Boy, if these guys can play to expectations, this could be a strong offensive line with tons of depth. TJ Johnson wants to know your thoughts on Ricky Stromberg, the center out of Arkansas, who was signed by the Bears in middle of last season.
Yeah, put on that. We've talked about this before. He was a 2nd or 3rd round pick by the Washington. By the old regime. And he got hurt as a rookie, was in camp last year, and they cut him. And they didn't even want to put him on the practice squad. They just flat out cut him. And to me, that was very telling. They cut bait on a guy that was a high pick.
Mhm.
So, I know what he had a good rep playing. I think he was at Missouri, wasn't he?
Arkansas, wasn't it?
Arkansas, that's right, Arkansas. And, he didn't pan out. Now, can he challenge? Absolutely can challenge and compete. That's what you want. So you're going to have, for a backup center, you're going to have him. You're going to have Luke Newman. I mean, and the kid who's been here the last couple of years, it wasn't very good. So, yeah, that's competition. But, the guys you want are guys that can play two positions. Bates can play guard or center. Newman can play guard or center. I don't know if Stromberg can play guard.
I don't think Stromberg can play.
I didn't see him at all in Washington. I got preseason tape. I could probably look up what his number was and see what he did. But I'm just, I know a lot of fans, because of his rep, are real high. I'm not in that category yet, only because of the reasons, that I already mentioned.
Right. All right, let's tackle some of these questions here, Greg. J2K, when we were talking about signing running backs, he's skeptical about the whole thing. He says, keep in mind we're $3 million over the cap when we sign the rookies. Who do we cut to afford?
Well, I don't know if that's true. We got $10 million.
Right.
Okay,
so
on the cap.
Takes $6-7 million.
Well, the pool number hasn't been assigned yet.
Right.
And the pool number is assigned according to how many picks you have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and a lot of it has to do with your first and second round pick. I have a feeling the pool number is going to be pretty good number, because you got a number 10 pick or number 9 pick in the first round, 10 pick in the first round, and you got 3 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And your 3 2s are going to cost some money. So once that happens, then you get a set. Now, they may have already assigned it. It just hasn't been released yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll keep an eye on that. AW wants to know, would you rather have a few good running backs that offer a variety, or a one-star back with average backups?
Well, the game, there's very few bell cows in this league anymore. Everybody plays in a rotation. You can say Henry with the Ravens is a bell cow, but most teams want to have 2 and even a third guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you got 2 quality guys, you're doing good. I'm not as down on Swift as some fans are. And I get it, because, don't forget, Swift played behind like a horrible offensive line last year, and he still had 900 and some odd yards.
And a dysfunctional coaching staff.
Right.
So
he's going to be here at least this year.
Mm-hmm.
You got an out after this year if he doesn't play up to the way he's supposed to, but it's still going to cost you dead cap money in another year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We already talked about Kenneth Walker, so I'll erase this one. Tony says, Courtney Cronin said on ESPN 1000, if they're signing a free agent edge, it won't be until training camp. Yeah, and that's what you were saying earlier. Any free agent they'll sign now will likely be in training camp, whatever position, right?
Yeah, they're going to use OTAs. The rookies, I think the rookies are here for the duration, because 2 weeks. It used to be May 15th, and if that was the case, you'd have to go home. But I think they can just stay. What's the date this weekend? It's like the 11th or What day is Sunday?
Friday's 9th.
9th, 10th, 11th, so Monday's the 12th. You know, maybe they can start the 13th, and you're just going to keep them here.
Yeah.
You know, and the only guys who can't be here is if a kid hasn't graduated and his school is still in session. And that would be a school that's on quarters instead of semesters, because semesters are all done just about in another week.
Mm-hmm.
So if not done this week. So most of these guys are going to be here, if not all of them.
J2K wanted to know what your opinion on Burns. He was a 4-star recruit, Major Burns. Why did he go undrafted? Because he sucks.
He didn't play as well. I mean, you know, the 4-star recruit, you know, the biggest scam in the world is people who buy into those recruiting things with 4-star, 3-star. I mean, most of it isn't on football. It's what you, especially with the skill positions, is what you do at these camps. And so if a kid doesn't go to a camp, he doesn't get rated as high as another kid. Then if you're from a place like, you know, out in the mountain states, if you're in Colorado, Idaho, Utah, New Mexico, automatically you can't be high because, you know, you're not in the populated areas. It's ridiculous. And so, and the guys that get, there's some guys that are 5-star offensive linemen, and they're so much bigger than the guys they play against in high school that they look great. But when they get into college, and guys their own size, they're just blobs. You know, I think it's a joke. It's one of the biggest ripoffs going, but is what it is. Guy had an idea and made a lot of money on it.
Hey, Adrock 92 says he just found out Elkin was the long snapper for Torrey Taylor at Iowa.
Yeah, well, you got to have a second long snapper, but, you know, Daly did a pretty good job last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you want a long snapper just like for this weekend. And then, you know, for at least the first part of camp, that could be if during the OTA period, the rookie isn't as good as what they hoped he would be, or Daly's not as good as what they hoped they could be, they could waive that guy and have an extra roster spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, or bring in somebody else.
I'm going to answer this next question on your behalf. Carl asks, will Greg spend 30 minutes on my podcast when the Bears announced 5 receivers on the initial 53? No, you're not.
There's not going to be 6. They always keep 6. Ever since the 53-man roster started, there might be a couple teams, but everybody keeps 6.
So will you go on their podcast?
No.
If
he wants to pay me.
There you go. There you go. Money talks. He goes on to ask.
Bullshit walks.
They could be shifty and place Braxton Jones on IR to return after being on the initial 53. Tell us a little bit about the machinations that can happen there to stash a player who may not be.
You can put a couple players on IR right at the 53 cut down, and you can bring them back after 4 games. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
Because I can say it's 50-50 or better that he's ready for the beginning of camp. They're just being very cautious, saying, well, he may not be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you look at did you see the recent video of Hutchinson working out?
Yeah.
Doing the loop and stuff. And he is 7 months out from a lot more severe injury than Braxton had. Okay, he broke his tibia and his fibula, had to have a rod, probably had a rod inserted in both, and a surgery. And I mean, he's not 100% now, but he's got 3 months to go. He's moving damn well.
Yeah, I thought there was a little hitch, but for the most part.
Okay. Yeah. So if he was an offensive lineman, he'd be looking at that movement. You'd say he's a lot closer to play than being the speed defensive end that he is. Braxton was in the ankle. It was a little later. Hutchinson's injury was the middle of October. Braxton was in December. So it was like 2 months ahead. So, but still, if Braxton, who didn't have as severe as injury, is in, this is May. So if he in the beginning of July is better than Hutchinson is right now, he'll be good to go to camp because then he still has another month.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wait, but I'm just comparing apples to apples there.
Sure. Sure. Well, now with OTAs coming up now, do we expect to hear any news about injuries? Because they're going to have their press conferences. Those questions are going to be asked of the head coach. I don't think Poles is going to meet with the media.
You don't have to report on any injuries until training camp starts.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So we'll be in the dark some more.
I mean, that if they want to, but and actually Fox they used to do it. And Fox got here and says, I don't have to talk about injuries. I don't have to talk about injuries until camp starts.
Yeah.
And so, and then that became like the team
philosophy
or philosophy on that. And, ever since John was here. So yeah, it's competitive advantage. Don't tell them as little as you know.
Squeegee says, why are we caring about Braxton Jones? He has the same fundamental issue he had when he started. He can't pass block worth a damn. Well, he has problems with the bull rush, and my concern is with the ankle injury, he probably has not been able to work on helping that base from a training standpoint.
I don't necessarily agree with that. There's ways you can do leg injury, you're not going to see him squatting, but he can do other stuff.
Okay.
And, he could put a boot on when he's doing like leg presses and stuff and not have that stress on the ankle. And again, it's where is he in the rehab? We don't know that. And then you go back to listen to Rochar. He goes, I just got to get his hips down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, it's really, it's up here. When you play lower, bend your knees, sink your hips, you're going to anchor better.
Yeah.
If you're up a little higher, your base isn't as good, and it's easier to get pushed back.
Greg, who is the best offensive line coach you've ever seen, heard of, worked with, and
been around two really, really good ones: Harry Easton and Jim McNally.
Oh, tell me about Jim. I don't know much about him.
Okay, McNally he started the Mushroom Club. Was with Cincinnati forever.
What is the Mushroom Club, by the way?
The offensive linemen, all the offensive not linemen, the coaches.
Oh, okay. So
it's like the internal. They used to wear these T-shirts with mushrooms on them. The internal order of the mushrooms.
I love it.
and him and there was one or two other guys that were like heads of the mushroom. But McNally still has clinics. He has one clinic that he has in Pennsylvania. Remember Bob Wiley, who was here?
Yeah.
Bob takes part. A lot of these guys are, they stick together. They're good friends. Wiley helps out at that clinic, but it's like you go to that clinics outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and it's like Vegas. What goes on here stays here. And there's a lot of the offensive line coaches in the league go to that. It's just more of a fun weekend than a clinic, I think. But McNally, like I said, he was with Cincinnati forever. Then he went to, I think, Carolina. He is a Buffalo guy. He's a local guy. Local guy for me. I've known him since I was a sophomore in college because he was coaching at the University of Buffalo and I was going to transfer there, and he was my recruiting coach. And then I think he was at Carolina. Then he was with the Giants for a while, and then his hometown team, the Bills.
Oh, okay. So what made him so good that you've listed him with Harry?
His reputation is unbelievable. Some of the guys he developed, Anthony Munoz. Ask Anthony Munoz, who's the best coach he ever had. Jim McNally, right away, would be the name. Mouse was an offensive lineman himself. Mouse is his nickname. Now, Mouse is older. Mouse has got to be getting close to 80, but still very active. Works with the offensive lineman on his spare time at the University of Buffalo. Runs all these clinics, but just his reputation around the league was impeccable as just being one of the gurus of the offensive line. Worked with him in New York for a couple of years and just saw the job he did. We had really good offensive lines. And then, like I said, we went to a Super Bowl with him coaching the offensive line. And then Harry, Harry's a disciple of McNally. And Harry's just by far the best. I mean, he's just superb.
Yeah, he's had 2 tours with the Chicago Bears. The first one more successful than the second one. I mean, the second one may have been because it was a prearranged marriage, perhaps.
Well, I don't know if it was a prearranged marriage, but from what I understand, there was a disagreement in how the blocking should be done in the run game, and the head coach won.
And poor Harry lost his job.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Well, no, he went back to Notre Dame then, and then he was there for
and then he retired.
a couple more years, and then he retired.
Yeah.
And Harry is now on the committee and one of the lead guys for the Joe Moore Award, which is the best offensive line in college football.
Yeah, cool. I'd love for you to bring in one of those offensive line coaches, and we could just talk offensive line for 30 minutes because I actually have been trying to do some homework myself to learn more about the position. So
I'm going to tell you, in all honesty, it's probably one of the hardest positions to learn how to really evaluate. Yeah. You're always, number one, you're always learning. You got to find your own way of doing it the way you want. I mean, there's different ways. I start with just the little things and try to build up. And the first thing I look at is the stance. So you got, when you got the all 22, you got an end zone view and you got a wide view. Well, for the offensive lineman, you always want the end zone view. End zone. And you want it where they're going out. So you get, their ass is facing you. And then I look at the stance just to see how comfortable they are in the stance. Because if they got their knees bowed out and stuff, that means they're either tighten their hips, tighten the ankles, or tighten the knees. And they can't get, so you want to see them be low and real comfortable and how they fire out of the stance. So it starts with there, and then it's how they come out of the stance, how they place their hands. Right. Do they have snap in their hips when they make contact? Do they keep their back straight when they're pass blocking, or are they waist benders? Waist benders fall on the ground. Okay, when you're watching a guy run block, if his legs give out, he might not, and he's on the ground. Once I notice it. You start to see it more than once, and you go, okay, he's either got a balance problem or he doesn't have enough lower body strength. Because you can't play the game on the ground. One of the things I hate with offensive linemen, straight-legged players who can't bend, and guys are on the ground. I call them groundhogs, waist benders, because they're overextended and they can't snap. They don't bring the power of their lower body with them.
Right.
But if I see that stuff, I kill them because you got to have lower body strength. That's why I like about Luke Newman. His technique is almost perfect.
And do you think that's because of great coaching he received, or is sometimes inherent in players to just get it faster?
That's a good question. Some of it can be coaching. Listening to Trapillo in his press conference after he got drafted, he talked a little bit about that. And he goes, well, I'm tall, so I got to make sure I'm doing everything right. So I got to have my hips down. I got to do this. And that was 100% right. And you watch his tape. He's never bending at the waist. His back is always straight. He sinks his hips. He moves his feet really good. Now, he didn't run good. He only ran 5.2. But in a short area, he moves his feet really, really well. I
can't wait to watch this guy play. Let's set it up.
No, that's Trapillo I'm talking about, not Newman.
Oh, okay.
But Newman is just, he's so freaking powerful and strong. Now, didn't he have I think he had a 35-inch vertical jump or something like that?
I don't have his number in front of me.
Let me get it. That's like, for an offensive lineman, that's crazy.
Yeah, 35-inch right on the button.
Yeah, that's crazy. That means the lower body explosion that he has is absolutely rare for an offensive lineman.
Yeah, Shake, I agree with you. Sewell is not our starting role. J2K has a question for you. He says, with the improved offensive line, Ben Johnson's play calling, and the weapons added in the draft, can you see Caleb having a top 10 quarterback season?
On paper, yeah. Now he's got to do it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's easy for anyone to say yes, because the weapons are there. The inherent talent is there. The biggest question that I have about Caleb Williams is can he play on time? Can he take that 3-step drop, plant that foot, and fire the ball? And sometimes he doesn't see stuff. And, it's a similar problem to Justin Fields. Not as bad as Justin Fields had.
Here's the one thing. You did not see that in college.
Okay.
So because that's one of the things you look for, how quickly do they process?
Absolutely.
And he was really, I'm not going to say rare, but at the top of the class.
Okay.
So now when you see it slow down when he gets up here, now granted, you got to get used to the speed of the game in the NFL, but had some of that have to do with the way the plays were being called, the design of the plays, and everything else. We talked about it last fall. Very few quick throws in that offense last year.
Yeah, unbelievable that
it's like, wait a minute. What you like to see is the guy gets the ball in his hand and it's out right away, because you got these quick throws and they were non-existent.
Unbelievable. Squeegee says that Ben Johnson said this will be difficult and that we will fail, especially the first year. How many games do you think it will take for the Bears to play BJ's scheme at a high level? Most coaches say it takes a couple of years.
It's a good question. And you go back to what he said. He said, I'm not bringing the Detroit offense here. We're making the own one. And I was thinking about that too after the draft. Okay, he's going to design it. Okay, now I got a couple more weapons. I got Loveland. I got Luther Burden. So what can I do with these guys? And you're going to be making this thing up as they go along.
Right.
Over the course of the next 6 weeks till summer vacation, and then even at the beginning of camp. The terminology, he's already given the terminology. They know that. It's what's the play design going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So, sort of like what MC Fact is saying, getting the ball off quick depends on route combinations. That's basically, I think, what you've been saying as well.
Right, but they didn't have those routes where you have those quick throws.
Right. Shit, rarely saw a slant pass called. And Trapakipa says, as long as we have an identity on offense and defense, I'm okay with it. We've been lost for over a decade. Yeah, the identity of this team has been all over the place. You know, we're still trying to find our identity, or famous words that Matt Nagy said. I think this team is going to be a lot quicker in finding its identity on both sides of the ball because of Dennis Allen's experience at calling defenses, and it's just the leadership strength and visionary qualities that Ben Johnson has. So that should be good.
I can't argue with that. I agree with you.
All right. Next week, Greg, what do you want to do next week? Because I wanted to actually look at the other teams in the NFC North draft on today's show, but I want to give that some time. So let's do that next week. And then whatever else comes up. People send me ideas what you'd like, Greg, to hear. Maddie, thank you very much for your contributions today. Any last words, Greg?
No, just that, we're going over the depth chart, supposed depth chart. And, you go back to what Ben said last week or the week before. He goes, there is no depth chart. Yep. And, I like that. You got to earn your position. Mm-hmm. And, you go back to his opening press conference, and, he wants you to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's good. That's developing guys and really the cream's going to rise to the top, and the guys that are lagging are going to be gone. It's real simple.
Indeed. By the way, Maddie with another $5 donation says, does anybody else love that BJ and LaFleur are taking jabs at one another? I do. It makes this rivalry fun again. Did you hear what LaFleur said recently? Because I do have the video.
I saw some of it, but I didn't make, much of it. Mm-hmm. He goes like, I don't even know the guy. Who's he? Exactly. But if I'm a competitor, I think I'll show them who I am.
Yeah. It's gonna be fascinating. The NFC North is gonna be fun again, and the Bears are gonna be competing.
Well, we gotta take one step at a time. Everybody's feeling good, and I'm not trying to end it with a downer, but it's still on paper looks good, but now they got to do it. And
absolutely,
part of that's the players, part of that's the coaching staff, working together, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each week they're out on the field for an hour and 15 minutes working on stuff. It's just offense on offense, defense on defense, but they're installing stuff. And then, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the rookies will be here. And then next week, that'll be the first time your whole team is together. That'll be for, I don't know, like a week of that. And then OTA start.
Mm-hmm. Hey, speaking of the schedule that you just landing up there, they're announcing the schedule next week on a Wednesday night. Do you want to do a show today? Do you want to postpone our Monday show and have it on Thursday after the schedule's released?
We can do that. Let me get my.
Let's see. That would be the schedule is released
on the 14th.
On the 14th, correct. So we would then do a show on the
15th.
15th.
Right now I can do it that way, but let's see how it.
Let's play it by ear.
Yeah. We already know who they're going to play. It's who they play and when.
Yes, exactly. Does that matter for you? Like when you were working in the NFL and the schedule came out, did you start looking at the schedule? And if so, what were you looking at?
Well, personally, I don't like Monday night games and I don't like Thursday night games, because they throw off your practice week.
Sure.
But I don't, the league has a way of, at least with the Bears, of always starting them out with a really tough opponent.
Packers.
It's
Yeah.
like, come on, give me Shadron State or something in the opening game. You know?
That's right.
You know, I'd rather have something like that so I can get my and you can put you get requests. And one of the requests the Bears always have to put in is we don't want a home game when the Chicago Marathon is, because it'll be a freaking nightmare.
Yep. Thank God.
So, but you only get so many requests.
Mhm.
And so, to me, it was like, I don't want to start off with Green Bay or Detroit or Minnesota.
But I got a feeling Detroit could be the game week 1. The Ben Johnson in Detroit, back to Detroit to start the season off, because the NFL is diabolical that way.
Now, last year, I don't remember. Was the first game home or away?
It was Packers.
It was home.
Home, yes.
Because we won in Green Bay in the last game.
No, last year. Yeah. It was the Titans at home.
That's right. Titans at home. They won the game.
Yeah. It was at that game. I should remember.
Yeah. For a while, we started the season at home. And then it was like 2 or 3 years on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer at home against, like, the Titans were the Titans were a good team, but that was a good team to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Give me another game like that and not, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Who are they playing? They play in the
I don't have that schedule.
NFC North or AFC North.
Let's see. I can tell you. I got to change the background here and get to this. Let me lose the banner. All right. So home games against Steelers, Browns, Saints, Giants.
Give me the Browns or the Saints to start the season.
That would be fun.
Yeah, then that to me that would be fun. I don't want to play the Eagles on the road, and they're going to playing on Thursday night anyway because they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. Boy, that road schedule, it's a tough one. Philadelphia, Washington, San Francisco, Baltimore, Cincinnati.
Give me the Raiders on the road to open the week out in Vegas.
Yeah, I'll take that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Cincinnati on the road. I wouldn't mind that.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I'd be going to the game. All right. Let's pull the plug on this one because we could stay here another 3 hours talking.
I was going to say something to you after. Now I can't remember what it was. I was thinking of it a minute ago or 5 minutes ago, but now I can't remember what the hell it was.
Well, I'll expect your text in about 10 minutes.
It'll come back.
Okay, brother. Great job. And thank you, everyone in the chat. And Maddie, a special thanks to you. We'll see you back here live Wednesday night. Bear their souls. Goodbye, everybody.
See you later. Thank you.
Well, tell me, do you hate me or do you